Imagine feeling infinite energy within you at every moment. Imagine if this energy allowed you to achieve everything you ever wanted in life, to become one of the greatest human beings on the planet, capable of becoming an expert in every field you tackle. Imagine having an infinitely powerful memory and never forgetting what you study. What would you give for that energy? Wouldn't it be more valuable than all the money you've ever earned? What if I told you that, according to the sages of ancient India, this energy can be obtained by avoiding sexual intercourse? Sounds surprising and unbelievable, doesn't it? What if we told you that this isn't some strange belief held by ancient Indians, but a widespread practice in every ancient culture around the world? In fact, semen retention for spiritual energy continues in the modern world, with men from various cultures around the world extolling its benefits from their own experience. In this video, we will focus on the ancient yogic tradition that semen retention generates spiritual energy in the practitioner. This energy was called Ojas by these yogis. We will analyze the benefits of semen retention in order to generate musical practices that can strengthen it and ultimately increase faith in its benefits. We will also explore the widespread recognition of semen retention in cultures around the world, including, surprisingly, the ideas of modern Western philosophers who support this practice. The famous 20th century Indian yogi and teacher, Swami Shivananda, wrote in his book, The Practice of Brahmacharya, about the importance of brahmacharya celibacy in thought, word and deed. This showed him that brahmacharya is much more than just the retention of semen. In fact, without maintaining celibacy in our thoughts and words, it is impossible to maintain celibacy in our actions. This is why Shivananda wrote in his book, in the strict sense, brahmacharya is celibacy. In the broad sense, it is the absolute control of all the senses. The gateway to nirvana is total brahmacharya. Celibacy is to the yogi what electricity is to the light bulb. Without celibacy, any spiritual progress is impossible. It is a powerful weapon and shield to combat the inner evil forces of lust, anger, and greed. It opens the path to afterlife bliss and liberation. It contributes to eternal joy and uninterrupted bliss. This is the only key to opening the Sushumna, the main astral conduit of the human body that runs through the spine, and awakening the Kundalini, the primordial cosmic energy that resides within the individual. This passage allows us to understand the meaning of the word brahmacharya. Literally, brahmacharya means to travel the path of Brahman, the absolute. This helps us understand that brahmacharya encompasses much more than just celibacy in our actions or semen retention. Only by adopting the higher aspect of brahmacharya, celibacy in thought, word, and deed, can we truly benefit from the spiritual benefits of this practice. In fact, Patanjali himself, in his Yoga Sutras, has mentioned the following benefits of brahmacharya. When one is confirmed in brahmacharya, one attains spiritual vigor. Swami Shivananda's description helps us understand what this spiritual vigor entails. In the passage above, Shivananda states that the practice of brahmacharya opens the Sushumna channel, a mystical nerve in the body through which the Kundalini energy is believed to rise. Thus, Shivananda links the practice of brahmacharya to the raising of Kundalini, making it indispensable for the serious spiritual practitioner. But what is the connection between Ojas and this practice? For Shivananda, brahmacharya involves not only the repression of sexual energy, but also its conscious redirection toward higher spiritual goals. In their system of yoga, sexual energy is classified as a vital fluid or raus. Ritus is one of the Sanskrit words for semen. Interestingly, vira can also mean strength or courage. Through the practice of intense spiritual austerities, ras transforms into ojas, a more subtle form of spiritual energy. According to Shivananda, once the vital fluid is transformed into spiritual ojas, this spiritual power manifests in the practitioner as an inner radiance, agile intelligence, immense willpower, and unfailing vitality. He notes that several saints and sages, who lived perfectly chaste lives in different cultures and religions, possess radiant faces and magnetic personalities due to the fact that they preserved the vital energy of Ojas. The most important lesson we should learn from Shivananda is that semen retention should not be a form of repression. In fact, he warns us that simply suppressing the release of semen without inner purification and eradication of desire can even lead to mental illness. The right approach rather than repression, is sublimation. The body's sexual energy, accumulated in brahmacharya, must be channeled into creative and spiritual work. Moreover, all masters of semen retention share this advice, the teaching of sexual sublimation. Later in this video, we will analyze the powerful debate on sublimation by Friedrich Nietzsche, one of the most popular philosophers of the modern world. In his writings, Shivananda also asserted that anyone who remained celibate or brahmachari for 12 years would immediately attain divine realization and would need no further spiritual practice. Interestingly, this emphasis on 12 years of brahmacharya is found even among other Indian sages. In fact, the famous Guru Sri Ramakrishna emphasized the importance of brahmacharya using the same figure. He explained to his disciples that a man who practices brahmacharya continuously for 12 years develops a special power. He develops a new internal nerve called the nerve of memory. Thanks to this nerve, he remembers everything. He understands everything. When a man manages to conserve his sexual energy, his intellect reflects the image of Brahman. He who carries this image of Brahman in his heart is capable of accomplishing anything. He will experience extraordinary success in everything he undertakes. This teaching about the nerve of memory is illustrated by the life of Ramak, Krishna's most famous disciple, Swami Vivekananda. In his lectures, Vivekananda continued his guru's advice by saying, "Power comes to one who observes brahmacharya without interruption for 12 years. Complete continence confers great intellectual and spiritual power." In fact, many believe that Vivekananda, through his lifelong practice of brahmacharya, developed a photographic memory and never forgot what he read. A revealing incident from his life sheds light on his memory. Here is his story. One day, a new edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica was purchased. Seeing the brand new volumes, a disciple said to Swamiji, "It is almost impossible to read all these books in one lifetime." He was unaware that Swamiji had already completed 10 volumes and started on the 11th. "Swamiji, what do you say? Ask me all your questions about these 10 volumes, and I will answer you." The disciple asked, astonished, "Have you read all these books?" "Swamiji, why should I ask you to ask me if I haven't read them?" When questioned, Swamiji reproduced not only the meaning, but also, in some passages, the very language of the difficult subjects chosen from each volume. The disciple, astonished, put the books aside, saying that it was inaccessible. "Swamiji, you see, by simply observing strict brahmacharya, all knowledge can be mastered in a very short time. One has an infallible memory of what one hears or knows even once. It is because of this lack of containerization that everything in our country is on the verge of ruin. This power can reach everyone. This power reaches those who observe brahmacharya continuously for 12 years for the sole purpose of realizing, God, I myself practiced this type of brahmacharya, which, so to speak, broke down a barrier in my mind." This story only confirms the view of ancient Indian sages, who always linked the practice of brahmacharya with the accumulation of physical, mental, and above all spiritual power. Vivekananda also explained that a yogi who masters brahmacharya is called an udvar. Earlier in this video, we talked about the word ras, which means semen, a vital fluid. Udveta means a person who has absorbed and stored this fluid upwards, urva. This means that while in normal humans, sexual energy is concentrated downwards, a yogi can absorb this energy upwards into his mind. This practice provides the mental benefits of brahmacharya. Common yogic practices, such as the headstand, and pranayama breathing exercises, such as kapalbhati, forehead illumination, exert pressure and energy toward the head from below. These practices are therefore essential for achieving the state of udvar, where sexual energy is concentrated in the head. The reabsorption of semen into the blood is the most powerful nourishment and, perhaps more than any other factor, stimulates potency, the agitation of all forces to overcome resistance, the thirst for contradiction and resistance. The feeling of potency has reached its peak until now among abstinent priests and hermits. For example, among the Brahmins, it is striking that this quote does not come from the writings of an Indian sage seeking to propagate the practice of celibacy, but from the private notes of the radical 19th century German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. Interestingly, Nature's philosophy was firmly based on the concept of self-development and the development of greater strength through self-control. Therefore, belief in the power of celibacy is not incompatible with his philosophy. The only significant difference is that, in his own words, he emphasizes the use of this energy in the form of sublimation as a stimulant of power. He believed this contrasted with the teachings of Christianity, where celibacy was ultimately a form of self-destruction, leading to meekness, even eunuch. In reality, Jesus advised his disciples to become eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven. Nietzsche opposed only this Christian form of celibacy. He identified more with the Indian form of celibacy, which was not aimed at becoming meek, or even an una. In contrast, the Indian approach to brahmacharya has always focused on acquiring greater spiritual power in the form of ojas. The famous inventor Nikola Tesla lived his life as a bachelor and childless. Some even claim that his celibacy was directly inspired by his encounter with Swami Vivekananda. Tesla and Vivekananda corresponded regularly and discussed the spiritual implications of Tesla's scientific discoveries. Later in his life, Tesla wrote that his inventions were precisely the reason he had to remain celibate. I recognize the importance of sex in human life. Nature has made its attraction irresistible to ensure the perpetuation of the species. Personally, I have discovered that the thinker is faced with the problem of the perpetuation of the species, or the mind. It is nearly impossible, at least in certain areas requiring intense effort, to achieve both. Hindus, whose followers practice absolute sexual abstinence, and many major religions have recognized this. Tesla reminds us that our energy is limited. If we devote it to lust, we will lack the energy needed to achieve higher spiritual goals, the only goals that should really matter in the grand scheme of things. Therefore, we must preserve our ojas and not divert it into vain and lustful tendencies. What do you think about semen retention? Have you ever practiced it? Tell us in the comments.